If you're still hoping Adrian Newey will roll up his sleeves and rescue Aston Martin's struggling AMR25, it's time for a reality check. According to Fernando Alonso, the legendary designer has a very specific reaction whenever someone mentions the 2025 car. He simply stands up and walks out. No debate, no comment, just gone. And the reason? One cold phrase reportedly says it all: not my responsibility. Newey was brought in to build a legacy for 2026, not to patch up someone else's failures. The current car? That's not his concern. He's focused on the future, sketching in silence while the team scrambles to fix a car he's already emotionally abandoned. But here's the real question. Can Aston Martin survive 2025 when the one man who could save them is already mentally living in 2026? This isn't a case of Newey being unwilling to work. Quite the opposite. His resume includes an era-defining lineup of title-winning machines. But if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that Newey rarely gets involved when the project feels beyond redemption. And in the case of Aston Martin's 2025 chassis, you could practically imagine the words "not my responsibility" etched across the carbon fibre in neon green. So what's going on? Why is one of the sport's sharpest minds actively avoiding the here and now? Adrian Newey made a rare appearance at the British Grand Prix, sketchbook in hand, embodying the very image of a visionary at work. Since officially joining Aston Martin in March, sightings of him have been scarce, save for a courteous nod in Monaco and a fleeting wave at Goodwood. Beyond that, he's largely remained behind closed doors at the team's Silverstone base, deep in thought and focused not on the car of today, but on the regulations of tomorrow. Why the long-range focus? Simply put, the present isn't exactly worth his time. Aston Martin's 2025 project is faltering, and Newey, whose genius thrives on building from the ground up, appears far more engaged with designing the blueprint for 2026 than attempting to plaster over the structural cracks of a flawed current concept. Fernando Alonso put it bluntly, albeit with a smile. Every time we ask something about this year or how to improve something, he gets up and goes to another office. It was said with humour, but the undertone was hard to miss. For a driver rapidly approaching the twilight of his career, the waiting game for a competitive car is wearing thin. Laughter may mask the frustration, but beneath it lingers the quiet question: how much longer can Alonso wait for the future to arrive? There's a familiar pattern at play. Call it the Newey principle. If I didn't design it from scratch, I'm not here to fix it. It's a philosophy that's quietly shaped his entire career. When Newey joined Williams in the early 1990s, his debut car, the FW14, had virtually nothing in common with what the team had been running prior. It was more a natural evolution of his Leighton House CG901 than anything pulled from Grove's design drawers. The same story unfolded at McLaren. Rather than immerse himself in the 1997 car, Newey set his sights on the upcoming 1998 regulations, developing an entirely new machine while still technically on gardening leave. And at Red Bull, he barely bothered with the RB2, a car so underwhelming that even Newey couldn't muster the enthusiasm to engage deeply. When asked about it, he responded with a shrug and a reluctant, "I spent some time trying to understand the RB2," followed, inevitably, by a sigh and a qualifying "but." That "but" is key, because Adrian Newey doesn't patch up problems, he resets the foundation. He's a clean sheet architect, not a renovation specialist. And now, at Aston Martin, the pattern holds. The 2025 car is a product of transition, conceived before his arrival, assembled without his blueprint. To Newey, it's a project already compromised. And as the team's unofficial chief visionary, he's understandably more interested in shaping the future than salvaging the past. After all, there's little point in icing a cake that's already collapsed in the oven. As Adrian Newey immerses himself in the blank pages of the 2026 regulations, the rest of Aston Martin is left grappling with the harsh reality of the present. The AMR25 has stalled in development, the upgrades are uninspiring, bordering on ineffective, and the team appears to be pulled in conflicting directions, one driver chasing every last opportunity, the other seemingly content to coast. Unsurprisingly, Lawrence Stroll is not amused. The team owner is known for his post-race debriefs that tend more toward confrontation than conversation, and with the results slipping further out of reach, his patience is reportedly wearing thin. When you've invested 9 figures into a cutting-edge facility that feels more like a Bond villain's hideout than a racing factory, the expectation isn't to be stuck in the midfield wilderness. Fernando Alonso, meanwhile, is watching the clock with increasing frustration. Now deep into his 40s, he didn't return to Formula One to participate in another multi-year rebuild. He came back to compete immediately. Every lost weekend isn't just a missed podium, it's a missed chapter in what could have been a fairy tale ending. And then there's Lance Stroll. Publicly, the younger Stroll maintains his signature air of nonchalance, but behind closed doors, murmurs suggest the facade is cracking. Rumour has it even he's beginning to grasp the uncomfortable truth that there's a wide gap between being a Grand Prix driver and simply occupying grid space. In his rare but carefully worded public remarks, Adrian Newey has gently pointed toward the core of Aston Martin's current malaise, its development infrastructure. He's referred to the existing wind tunnel and simulation tools as weak, which, in Newey's diplomatic language, is about as close as one gets to a technical takedown. Rather than channel his expertise into fine-tuning a car shaped by outdated systems, he's investing his energy where it counts, crafting a fresh concept for 2026, built from the ground up. And from his perspective, it's a logical move. Why squander brilliance trying to sand down rusted edges when you could be designing the next masterpiece? Newey's ambition stretches far beyond the next race or even the next season. He's aiming to deliver a car that Aston Martin can call its own, not just in carbon and metal, but in philosophy and performance. One that's born from his imagination, developed with cutting-edge tools, and backed by a team rebuilt in his image. Until then, the 2025 Challenger sits awkwardly in the corner, a misfit in a family photo no one's particularly eager to display. There is no hiding the strain inside Aston Martin. Lawrence Stroll wants visible progress, and he wants it quickly. Adrian Newey does his best work when left to range freely, sketching radical answers in quiet corners without an owner hovering over his shoulder. Those approaches do not naturally align. This is a textbook clash of timelines. Stroll is chasing podiums in the here and now. Newey is mapping a response to a regulatory reset that will not bite until the 2026 season. Between those horizons sits an awkward bridge year that no one seems eager to own. Caught in the middle are the drivers who need direction more than diplomacy. Fernando Alonso would like to know if the pain of waiting will ever pay off before he becomes more meme than menace. Lance Stroll would simply prefer fewer questions about why his Sunday pace disappears. Nothing suggests the 2025 Aston Martin will receive meaningful Newey intervention. The car will likely limp forward on incremental fixes while the new superstar hire pours his energy into the clean sheet that comes next. It is a gamble. The team keeps bolting short-term patches to a shaky platform while Newey drafts the architecture that could one day deliver the trophies the Stroll investment was built to chase. Whether Alonso has the patience for that arc, or whether Lawrence Stroll will tolerate another season in the midfield is still unclear. One thing is certain. Adrian Newey is not suiting up for firefighting duty. If the current car is burning, he is somewhere else entirely, probably drawing the cooling layout that would have stopped the blaze. Your turn. Is Newey right to keep his eyes on tomorrow and refuse to sink time into a lame duck car? Or is he walking away from a team that needs his touch immediately? Drop your verdict in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.